Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 5:08 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will join us at 7:05. Maryland Delegate Mark Fisher talk about how Governor Westmore continues to try to spin how bad things are in Maryland because, you know, he has a nomination to win in a couple of years. 7:35, Mike Gonzalez, senior fellow at Heritage Foundation, over NPR claiming that they have a constitutional right to take your money and then show political bias. 8:35, Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safer Communities, on all the latest D.C. crimes. There's been an uptick here. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Boy, the NPR, I'm so jealous of them. I'll be honest. I'll admit it. I'm jealous of NPR.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, they are our competition, I guess, sort of. I mean, you know, not in terms of ad dollars. People who are advertising on our station are not saying, oh, gosh, should we give our money to NPR or to WMAL? That ain't happening. When you hear the advertising they've got down there. No, it's really more about, listen, the fact is, if you're in your car and you're trying to choose a radio station to listen to, they're one of the options, NPR is. The difference is that, see, we're working over here, right? We're in a commercial enterprise here where we're trying to make money. Yep. We're trying to, as any corporation would do, trying to do it as lean and as efficiently as possible with the smallest team that you can afford and still put out a quality product, which I believe we do on a very regular basis. And I think that our audience popularity and advertising revenue would support that suggestion. Meanwhile, over at NPR, they don't have to worry about such things. See, because they're nonprofit. They can do whatever they want and spend as much as they want. And if they've got a loss at the end of the year, it doesn't matter. They can just beg for more money, and then they can ask the government for more tax dollars. And here's the best part. They reach into our pocket, Julie. We're competing against them for an audience, and they get to reach into our pockets to take our money against our will through tax dollars and subsidize their efforts, even though their efforts don't actually make any money over there. It's an amazing racket.
You've convinced me. I'm jealous. I'm now jealous.
I wish that we had come up with a business plan like this. It's brilliant. And now when, you know, a president comes in, an administration comes in, takes a look at the law, and the law, by the way, that funds the Corporation for Public Broadcasting specifically says that the content produced by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, including NPR and PBS, cannot show any kind of political bias. That's what the law says.
Right.
The money that they're taking from us is in exchange for them adhering to a certain set of rules with that money, and those rules dictate that they have to be fair and balanced in the way they report the news. And anyone who listens to NPR knows that they're violating that on a daily basis, minute-by-minute basis.
Right.
And so this administration comes in and says, well, hey, you're violating the law. You're wasting money. And by the way, it's not 1968 anymore. And people have a whole lot of options, not just for radio, but for any kind of audio content, whether it's on the AM/FM dial or whether it's via podcast. You know where NPR is spending most of their money right now in terms of investing in new product and new content? Podcasts.
Wow.
But when you try to cut their funding, they'll say, oh, but there's a radio station in Podunk, West Virginia, who won't be able to get news about a tornado coming if you cut funding for NPR, which, of course, is a lie. People in Podunk, West Virginia know exactly when a tornado's coming, whether they're not all, oh, my gosh, the storm is bad, let's go turn to NPR.
Right.
Let's hear the weather report from NPR, says nobody at all. In fact, did you know that the local radio station here, I'm going off on this. Because as you just heard in the news, NPR is now suing the Trump administration, claiming they have a First Amendment right to take our money and lie. So they say they have a First Amendment right. You know what, Julie? And I'm just going to, you're not supposed to talk about other radio shows when you're doing a radio show.
Sure.
Say, no, don't even talk about those other radio shows. I assure you, if I talk about the morning show on NPR, no one's going to listen to us right now and say, oh, there's a morning show on NPR. I'm going to go over and listen to that. And there's no danger of that. All right. But did you know, we feel we have a responsibility to the people listening every morning to not only deliver news and information and analysis and kind of in an entertaining way to keep them in an upbeat mood and ready to tackle the day. That's what we do, right, Julie? Would you admit that that's
Sure.
what we do?
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. But we also have a responsibility to cover things that are happening in our community, in our neighborhood. Things like school board meetings, things like parades that are coming up, things like, festivals and stuff like that. Also, every 10 minutes, we let people know what the traffic is like so that they can know if there's a better way to get to work. We let them know what the weather's going to be. Did you know that years ago, the morning show here in Washington, D.C. on NPR, they just said, traffic, that doesn't matter. We're not going to give traffic anymore. And they said,
we're too important. We're too important. We just do federal stuff.
We've got Trump to
international stuff.
That's right. We're NPR, damn it. They don't give local news. They don't talk about what's going on in Loudoun County. They don't talk about what's going on in Montgomery County. They don't talk about your schools. They're public radio, and they do less for our community in terms of news, information, and just the basics of getting to work every morning. Then we and they don't
what's
care.
galling too, Larry, is that they do all this politically slanted stuff. We say all the time, they are part of mainstream media. They are just an adjunct of the Democrat Party. But then in a congressional hearing, or if you ask people what PBS does, because this is what they present, is we just do children's programming and we do a little news. And if it weren't for us, kids wouldn't read.
Yeah,
that's what
right.
they do. Yeah.
That's what they do. And now, because the Trump administration has threatened the funding to the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, they are suing President Trump.
Unbelievable.
Saying that they have a First Amendment right to get tax dollars. This is amazing to me. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting was created in the late 60s, early 70s. So were we violating the Constitution for nearly 200 years by not funding nonprofit public radio? How did a constitutional right to funding NPR just appear in the late 60s, early 70s?
Larry, where's our First Amendment constitutional right to go on every morning? I think, you know what, Larry? We should ask for a chunk of that change.
That's right. Oh, unbelievable hubris. The lies.
Yes.
And yet here we are. This is what NPR play. All right, we'll give you more details on this lawsuit. Thank you for allowing me to rant about how because they're just awful. That's the other thing that's most infuriating about this is that they demand our money, your money, my money, our producer Heather Hunter's money, our program director Bill Hess's money. They demand our money to fund a product that is supposed to be, for the public service, and yet their programming does not actually provide a service to the public the way we do.
And
hold that thought. This is a good one, I know, but it's 5:15, and we have a duty to provide traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the Fives with J.B. Whitten and the Indeed Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
The law states that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is legally mandated to be, and I'm quoting now, non-political in nature. Do you find NPR broadcasting to be non-political in nature? Can anyone with an objective mind?
I think this is also, is just, it's just, we are in this era of watching Tapper, sort of profit off of his lies and denials of Biden's situation, and now we have the NPR just nakedly lying about what they do every single day, and then having the audacity to sue. I will say one positive thing here is it shows they're panicking, Larry. I feel like to go this far to sue shows a level of panic, which is a little bit delicious to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they think this is their final option here is to sue and to stop. It's typical. It's lawfare. They're going to find a judge who will say, "Oh,
exactly.
that's right. It's a fundamental right to be able to." So the law says that they have to be non-political in nature and not contribute to or otherwise support any political party. And everybody, even Democrats, know that NPR is left-wing. It's outrageous. And, of course, you remember the whistleblower editor who came forward last year, used to work at NPR. He said that in his newsroom here in Washington, D.C., Democrats outnumbered Republicans 87-0. 87-0. And I'm reading now from the fact sheet that accompanied the president's executive order ceasing funding for Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and they make a very good point. Unlike 1967, when the corporation was established, today the media landscape is filled with abundant, diverse, innovative news options, making government funding of news media outdated, unnecessary, and corrosive to journalistic independence. That's the bottom line. If you really love the First Amendment, if you love freedom of the press, if you love the science, arts, and craft of journalism, you want the government to be as far away from it as possible. Our government should not be funding a journalistic endeavor, period. Bottom line. And so, of course, NPR, facing an existential threat, has decided that they have a First Amendment right to your tax dollars, and they are now suing the Trump administration. NPR and 3 Colorado public radio stations are suing. And you're going to – do you know what the basis of their lawsuit is? This is the best part. They claim that this is viewpoint discrimination, that NPR is being penalized by the Trump administration, and they're utilizing viewpoint discrimination because they don't like NPR's viewpoint, and that's the violation of the First Amendment. When, in fact, NPR practices viewpoint discrimination on a minute-by-minute basis. Their entire programming model is viewpoint discrimination.
Catherine Mayer, the president of NPR, goes on in that statement saying the Supreme Court has ruled numerous times over the past 80 years that the government does not have the right to determine what counts as bias. Says NPR will never agree to this infringement of our constitutional rights or the constitutional rights of our member stations. She goes on. She's forgetting, though, that news programs like ours are free of government funding. She gets government funding, and the law actually says there cannot be bias. When she herself went up in Congress and basically said, "Oh, I didn't know that I said that. I didn't know." They presented her with example after example after example of not only NPR's bias but her own personal bias. Yes. And she sort of said, "Oh, she was totally embarrassed. It was really kind of a sight to see." So, you know, again, this is a case of just lying about what you have done for decades.
NPR repeatedly insisted COVID-19 did not originate in a lab, even though there were multiple news reports, multiple stories, and even a finding from the FBI, CIA, and Department of Energy saying that the lab leak theory was, in fact, the likely cause. They refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story. In fact, they bragged about not covering the Hunter Biden laptop story because they said that it was a distraction. Distraction from what exactly? They also refused to allow their editors, writers, and reporters to use the term biological sex when discussing any issue involving transgender policies. They have said that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, are inseparable from their content on the air. And finally, Ms. Maher, the president and CEO of NPR, has said in the past that truth is a harmful distraction from NPR's objectives.
That's right.
And there's your First Amendment fight that's in front of us now, and I welcome it, and you should too. Coming up at 7:35, Mike Gonzalez of Heritage Foundation has written about this. He's fired up too. It's finally time. It's finally happening. We're going to defund NPR. 5:23.
Coming up, more news on stripping funds from Harvard. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:37 here as we trek through this morning extravaganza known as O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will be our guest. 7:05, Maryland delegate Mark Fisher. 7:35, Mike Gonzalez of Heritage. And then at 8:35, Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safer Communities. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. Good morning.
Do you ever want to go to an Ivy League school? Do you ever want to go to Harvard?
I mean, I didn't really grow up with, Ivy League parents, so it wasn't really.
Yeah, but it's a thing.
Of course.
Yeah. It used to have such a sheen, such a prestige, my daughter, my oldest daughter, who's the one that she graduated UCLA. She's a theater producer, manager, and stuff. She decided she wanted to get her master's. So this fall, she's going to be starting at the master's program at Yale. And I felt a little bad because she was super excited that it's a very exclusive program. It's Masters of Fine Arts. Masters of Theater at Yale is a big deal. In the theater world, Yale Repertory Theater and all this stuff with Yale is a big deal. And so I recognize how exciting it is. But part of it is like she got in and she was super excited and I was like, that's great. She's like, what's the matter? I was like, it's Yale. They're anti-Semitic. She goes, not the theater department. I promise, Dad. It's not that. It's okay. We'll see.
Well, certainly the shine is not there.
It isn't
like
the
it used to be.
Yeah.
And just the shenanigans that go on at these schools. Also, just like the majors. I majored in macrame and women's belly buttons. Like it's just absurd. Some of the things that are available at these schools.
I think that's the thing with the Ivies. If you focus, if a student goes to one of these schools and they're driven and focused on the task at hand, specifically the education they want and how they're going to apply it to the real world, they'll be fine. Unless what they want to do is get a poli-sci major and apply that degree to, warping our society, then, you've got plenty of opportunities to do that too. And for all of those reasons, the Trump administration is now, after their demands that Harvard actually crack down on the anti-Semitism on their campus and protect Jewish students and stop importing radical, un-American students on international visas, Harvard instead has decided to sue the Trump administration for the right to be able to do all of those things. And so Trump is now moving back, and this is how Trump operates, and hitting back even harder, threatening to defund up to $3 billion is now the latest of potential government money that they get that they claim they use to cure cancer. But the fun part is he wants to divert that $3 billion to trade schools. Here's Caroline Levitt last night on Fox explaining that.
And the president is more interested in giving that taxpayer money to trade schools, in programs, in state schools, where they are promoting American values, but most importantly, educating the next generation based on skills that we need in our economy and our society. Apprenticeships, electricians, plumbers. We need more of those in our country and less LGBTQ graduate majors from Harvard University. And that's what this administration's position is. And we also are not going to tolerate the illegal, criminal, anti-Semitic behavior that we saw take place at Harvard and many other college campuses across the country.
Yeah, I do love this emphasis on trade schools, not only because it drives Harvard and the elites crazy, because, we don't have time for those kind of people. But it also sends a message to our culture and to young people that we as a society and as a nation value these jobs and value the young men and women who decide to, get an HVAC license or become a car mechanic or what have you, just as much as somebody who gets a poli-sci major from Harvard.
Well, what's so interesting, too, is now that they're talking about defunding parts of Harvard and also sort of killing this international department that they have, or like bringing in international students, it is going to rid Harvard of 60%. So when you get rid of this international program, it is going to rid Harvard of 60%. So you're sitting here talking about how your daughter is going to go to an Ivy League school and get her graduate degree. Great. That doesn't happen so much anymore. This is an American college that largely educates foreigners who come into this country and then agitate for the destruction of Israel. Like, is this even an American college anymore? That is also galling. Like, who are you educating? You're not educating Americans, and you're not educating people who come into this country and love America. They hate America, and they hate America's allies. And so, again, this is a way of reforming these schools who, by the way, have these endowments and then hike up the prices so that students go into massive debt to go to these schools. The whole thing is a racket. It's completely outrageous.
And the 60% number that you're citing here specifically is the Harvard Kennedy School. Now, the Kennedy School is the school of politics. Think about that. It's named after John F. Kennedy and the Kennedy family. It's at Harvard, the oldest college in America, and it's focused on politics. And 60% of their students come from other countries outside the United States. The Kennedy School's mid-career master's in public administration degree offers a specialized fellowship program for leaders in developing and transitional countries. International students make up 87% of enrollees in the Kennedy's MPA in International Development degree. So, Crimea River, Harvard, you're an American institution. You're named after an American president. The School of Government is supposed to be about nurturing and by the way, I did a deep dive yesterday on this. Guess who one of the not most recent, but over the last couple of decades, guess who one of the international foreign graduates of the Kennedy School of Government is? An Irish lass who goes by the name of Stephanie Powers. The woman who was in the middle of the Obama administration's shenanigans internationally. She turned a blind eye to the genocide in Congo, in Rwanda during the Clinton years. She was the ambassador to the UN, and her last job was in charge of the USAID slush fund under Joe Biden. And she was a foreigner when she came to the Kennedy School of Government. That's where she learned how to bilk our system. It's 5:43.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
All right, so far, the Trump administration and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have enacted a new policy scrutinizing the people who are in this country with student visas. So far, did you know this? 4,000 visas have been revoked from international students if they have committed a crime. So again, I just want to remind everybody as they start to freak out about this, that, it's a war on higher institutions and higher learning and education. No, it's enforcing existing law over student visas. If we as a nation welcome you from a foreign country to come here and take advantage of the great infrastructure of higher education that we have spent decades, centuries building in this country with our money, and you want to get, because, nobody wants to get their, master's degree from the University of Uzbekistan, right? They all want to come here. They all want to take advantage of our colleges, right? So they come here, and we grant you a student visa. There are rules that you have to follow. That's it, basic rules.
But also, just like in other countries, if you commit a crime here in the United States, you're not going to the University of Paris. Not going to happen.
Thank you. 4,000 student visas have been revoked for international students with charges like arson, wildlife and human trafficking, child endangerment, domestic abuse, DUI, robbery. That's 4,000 who were in this country on student visas who had committed crimes like that. Furthermore, yesterday, the Rubio State Department ordered U.S. embassies and consulates to pause any student visa application interviews from this point forward as they, I'll say effective immediately in preparation for an expansion of required social media screening and vetting. Consular sections should not add any additional student or visa or exchange visitor visa appointment capacity until further guidance is issued. So what they're doing is starting now, we are going to scrutinize and vet. And if you want a student visa, we're going to look at your Instagram. We're going to look at your TikTok. We're going to look at your Facebook. And guess what? If we don't like what we see, we're not going to let you in. And that's how a country is supposed to run. Every country should do this.
This is basic. This is like, okay, if you're on social media, burning an American flag or attending some sort of, from the river to the sea protest, you're not coming in. It's simple. And again,
even if you are Stephanie Powers.
Other governments do this. Other governments have these kinds of very basic restrictions.
It's basic. We created a Department of Homeland Security about 20 years ago after 9/11. And the idea was that we would do stuff like this. And we were, by the way, for a while. And for everybody standing around saying, oh, how did this happen? When you see these protests on college campuses, where did they come from? And how did Obama. The answer is Obama.
Yes.
They changed everything. Did you know that, like, I saw a stat the other day, 20 years ago, before Obama, international students at these colleges was probably about 10% of the population. It's now routinely over 50%.
Oh.
Obama changed
absolutely.
all of it.
They did.
By
all
design.
all roads lead to Obama. You're absolutely
That's
right. And it's interesting because when Bush 1 came in, it's so clear that this last 4 years they're prepared. They know exactly what was going on. They really
You mean Trump won?
I'm sorry, Trump won. When Trump was first elected. You look at these two administrations, Trump 1 and Trump 2. And I mean, I think the first Trump administration did not understand the damage that the Obama administration had done. You're absolutely right. It all goes back to Obama.
It's 5:52.